Welcome back. Okay, today's explainer dives into an absolute sports mystery, and honestly, it's one that has been frustrating athletes, coaches, and fans for years. When you look at Indian judokas, you're looking at absolute powerhouses. I mean, we're talking about athletes with immense heart, just incredible athleticism and explosive power. Yet, when we look at the podiums of the biggest international stages, like the World Championships or the Grand Slams, they are literally nowhere to be found. Why on earth is a World Championship medal still just a pipe dream for these incredibly talented athletes? Well, today, we're not going to just shrug and blame bad luck or tough tournament draws. Nope, we are going straight to the source material to dissect the exact structural, tactical, and technical gaps that are keeping India off the global podium. Let's get into it.
All right, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover 1. The paradox, 2. Technical ceilings, 3. The grip fight, 4. Missing culture, and finally, bridging the divide.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the domestic dominance paradox.
So, the current state of Indian judo is really defined by this striking, almost confusing contradiction. On the domestic front, participation rates are booming, and at the national championships, man, these judokas are unstoppable legends. They completely dominate the national circuit, making it look almost too easy. But, and here is the wild part, the second these exact same athletes step onto the IJF World Tour, that dominance just vanishes into thin air. Local gold literally turns into international disappointment overnight. And I'm not exaggerating here. We're looking at the alarming reality of opening round exits at major events, specifically the 2025 and 2026 World Championships. The drop-off is just incredibly steep. So, why exactly does this happen?
Well, the root of this paradox actually lies in what we can call a medal-first mindset. You see, in the age group domestic circuits across India, the culture heavily prioritizes immediate results. You have to win today to get your funding, to get recognized, to be crowned a champion. But here is the crucial takeaway. Prioritizing those immediate local wins comes at the direct expense of long-term technical development. When your only goal is just surviving the domestic bracket, you never really develop those complex, highly adaptable skills that are absolutely required for the senior world stage. They build a game that works flawlessly in India, but the second it hits international waters, it just shatters, and that transition perfectly reveals where the gameplay actually breaks down.
Which brings us to Section 2, technical and tactical ceilings.
Now, what's really interesting here is when we analyze the match footage, a stark contrast emerges between some pretty outdated strategies and the modern world standard. Right now, the Indian judo style leans heavily on a strength-first approach. They rely on physically overpowering opponents, often falling back on traditional leg-grabbing instincts. But here's the catch. Under modern IJF refereeing standards, those leg-grabbing instincts aren't incredibly penalty-prone. You'll get flagged constantly. Now, contrast that with the evolving modern world standard. The global rankings are currently dominated by athletes using these incredible Georgian and Japanese hybrid styles. These international elites, they aren't just strong, they rely on highly dynamic gripping sequences and immense tactical adaptability. They are adjusting on the fly, while the Indian athletes are stuck playing a rigid, pretty outdated game. And honestly, that rigidity leads right into what the source material calls the favorite throw trap. Think about it. Domestically, if you're insanely strong and you master one singular spectacular throw, you're going to succeed. You can totally force that throw against local opponents and walk away with national titles. But internationally, no way. Elite international scouts and coaches are analyzing hours of your match footage. If you show up with a one-dimensional game plan centered around just one favorite throw, the world's best will exploit it instantly. They'll shut down your preferred angle before you even move, and if you don't have a plan B, C, and D ready to go, you're going home in the first round. So how exactly are these international elites shutting down the Indian athletes so efficiently?
Let's look closer at Section 3, losing the grip fight. If you want to truly understand elite judo, you have to understand this one critical concept, kumikata. Kumikata is essentially the highly tactical art of grip fighting. It's the battle that happens before the throw even starts. You're fighting to establish a dominant hold on your opponent's judogi, their uniform, so you can completely control their balance and dictate the attack. And guys, this is exactly where the gap is the widest. Indian athletes fundamentally struggle to neutralize the aggressive sleeve and lapel dominance that European powerhouses execute flawlessly. And the brutal truth is, if you lose the kumikata battle, you literally cannot launch your favorite throw. You're basically defeated before you even attempt a strike.
Let me walk you through a brutal 2-minute sequence that we see constantly in the international match footage. Step 1 is the initial engagement. The international opponent immediately uses negative judo tactics. They're constantly shifting, denying grips, just totally frustrating the Indian athlete. Step 2, this traps the Indian judoka into inefficient tactical positioning.
Because they just can't get their preferred grip, step 3 kicks in. And this is huge. Grip strength burnout. Here's a crazy fact for you. Elite grip fighting can spike an athlete's heart rate to near its absolute maximum in just 20 seconds. 20 seconds! They are burning massive amounts of physical energy just trying to grab a hold of the opponent. Which leads us to step 4. Exhausted, unable to launch any real attack, they get hit with a decisive shido, a penalty. This usually culminates in a heartbreaking loss during the golden score period. They aren't getting spectacularly thrown, they're just being tactically suffocated. Which naturally leads us to ask, why do these specific gripping gaps and tactical blind spots exist in the very first place?
That brings us to Section 4, the missing training culture.
Okay, the key concept to grasp here is randori. Randori is high-intensity freestyle sparring. It's unscripted, chaotic practice, and it is absolutely essential for developing those explosive transitions and the split-second tactical adaptability we've been talking about. The source material points out a massive, critical failure here. India severely lacks what we call elite density training camps. Look, to master modern kumikata, you need to be doing randori with diverse, world-class partners every single day. You simply cannot learn to counter European grip fighting by only sparring with athletes from your own local gym who fight the exact same way you do. It just doesn't work. And because of this lack of elite density sparring, all the dots start connecting into this sort of perfect storm. When these athletes move from their local dojos to the blistering pace of international Olympic cycle training centers, they experience literal physiological shock. The pace is just way too fast. Now combine this lack of high-level daily sparring with a complete absence of structured sports science integration, and you've got a recipe for failure. Without sports science, Indian athletes just aren't peaking physically at the exact right moment for major world events. They're walking onto the mat tactically unprepared and physically uncalibrated. I know it's a pretty harsh reality check, but trust me, it's not hopeless.
Let's turn to Section 5, bridging the podium divide. To actually bridge this gap, we need a concrete blueprint for the 2028 Olympic cycle, and here it is. Step 1 is absolutely crucial: international residency programs. We have got to embed our top prospects directly into European and Japanese club systems so they can experience that elite density randori every single day. Step 2, we need to hire specialized tactical coaches. We don't just need strength and conditioning guys. We need tactical experts who truly understand the chess match of modern IJF point scoring and grip fighting. And finally, step 3 is systemic technical evolution. The entire philosophy, literally from the ground up, has to evolve away from that one-dimensional strength-first local approach.
All of which leaves us with a final, really vital question. The blueprint is laid out, right? The technical and tactical flaws have been totally exposed, but are national sporting bodies actually ready to sacrifice the short-term pride of domestic medals to invest in the long-term, grueling technical evolution required for global hardware? The athletic potential is undeniably there. The heart is there. But until the system evolves to close the grip gap, that international podium is going to remain just out of reach. Think about that as you watch the next generation of judokas step onto the mat. Thanks for exploring this with me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.